everyone, my name's Miss Jenna and welcome to your first Cool Crafts at Home. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make a recycled do-it-yourself bag made out of an old t-shirt. So what you're going to need for today's craft is a pair of scissors and an old t-shirt that's okay to be cutting up. If you want to add some decorations at the end, then feel free to get creative, think about markers and buttons, and at the end I'll show you a few tips for cool ways to decorate it. So the first thing you want to do is lay out your shirt so that it's nice and flat. You want a nice big surface with plenty of space. Make sure nothing is, too wrinkled, everything's laying flat. So what we're going to do as our first step is outline where we're going to make cuts for the sleeves. Or not for the sleeves, for the handles of the tote bag. So I like to draw them in markers so that I have a guide to follow while I'm cutting. We're going to follow the line of the sleeve right here, the hem, with about an inch of extra space. So I'm going to draw my guidelines just like this, just so I have something to follow. And I'm going to do the same thing on this side, following my hem, just barely an inch out. So we can start by making the cuts for our sleeves. Alright, so that's the sides of our tote bag handle. Next, we're going to do another cut around the neckline. So this, you can choose exactly how deep you want to go based on how big you want your opening to be. If you want to make sure you're keeping to a nice shape, you can find a bowl to use as a tracer. I'm going to draw my lines just a bit lower than last time. All right, and you can always adjust it after you've cut it. All right, and now we have the handles. This is where your arms would go through. So just to show you on our finished product. Here my cuts might have been a little deeper, so if you wanted to cut a little further you can, because you might hang it on your shoulders this way, so you want lots of space. Alright, next up, now this is up to you. I like to cut off this bottom hem, but if you want to keep it on, you can absolutely keep it there. Depends if your shirt is really big, it might be a little too long. If you keep it on, I'm going to cut a little extra off. Alright, and here's where you have a choice to make. If you want your fringe to look like our example, and there's a fringe on the bottom, and to be on the outside, then you want to keep your shirt exactly how it is. If you want to hide your fringe on the inside, you want it just to be a straight bottom, then you're going to want to turn your shirt inside out so that when you make your knots, they end up on the inside. And I'll show you an example when we get to tying knots of how that's done. Our next step is that we're going to start to cut the fringe that will close up the bottom of our bag. So the fringe are going to go about, let's see what that is, about 3 inches high, but you can make it as high as you want to. Here, I'm even going to make mine about 4 inches high. So again, if you want to create a guideline so that all of them are the same, you're welcome to do that. If not, you can kind of eyeball it and it will look absolutely fine. I'm going to make each of my fringes about an inch, inch and a half. We don't want them too small because they will curl. Don't forget you have to start by cutting between the two layers. So now I'm just going to make straight cuts between or through the 2 layers, all the way up close to my dot. And don't forget with the last 2, cut those layers apart. So now we're going to make our fringe by tying them together in knots. So take the 2 layers that are on top of each other, and you're just going to tie them into a simple knot, and then pull so that it closes them. So you're going to take each pair, tie it into a knot. They might get a little crazy. So remember, doing it this way means the fringe is going to show at the bottom. If you want your fringe to be hidden before you start tying, you want to turn your shirt inside out, and that way the fringe will be on the inside, and I'll show you what that looks like. So any lines you drew will probably disappear when you make all your little ties. Alright, so far here we have our bottom. Now if you wanted to have your ties inside, I'll show you what it would look like. You'd want to do this inside out from the start so that your design, if you have a design in your shirt, shows, but that way you just have a little bit of knotting and a flat bottom. Now, depending on what you plan to hold in your bag, you might find that there are little gaps in between some of your knots and that items might fall through. So here's what you can do to take care of that. You're going to tie a second row of knots. All ours. So what you want to do is take one tie from the first knot. Look, you have all your separate knots from your pairs. So you want to take one tie from the first knot and one from the second knot and do another simple knot, and that will close up that little gap that was in between. That way if you have anything small, it won't fall through. Then take the tie from your second knot and go on and tie it together with a third knot. Take your tie from your third knot, tie it with your fourth knot, and keep going until you get all the way to the end. So you're connecting knots so that it closes that little gap that might have formed when you made your knots. Think of it as the previous one with the next one. So here you go. Here is your DIY recycled t-shirt tote bag ready to go. Now, if you would like, stay tuned and I'll show you some fun ways that you can decorate your shirt if it didn't have any, fun designs or if you wanted to add some color to it.